Hello, what's up everybody? How is it going? Welcome to another video of tutorial series Learning Laravel from Scratch. I'm your host Anwar Ali and I'm here today with a new topic, and the topic is creating migration for our project database. So in this video we will be learning about the migration. We will be getting more familiar with migration, how to create migration, what are the commands and what are different ways, and how do we build a schema for the table. So I'll be dealing with those topics today, and besides that, let us see first of all what we did yesterday. So let me quickly open my Sublime along with my project. So application amps www, and my folder was project, right? So here by default Laravel creates for us two migrations already, as we did that yesterday. You could see users table and passwords table, right? Similarly, these are the similarly we can create our own migration which will be just like these migrations. So let us suppose what we can do is we can just create a news application where from backend we'll be adding the news, and in the front end we'll be listing those news and creating the news detail page and so on. So first of all, let us just create a table called news. So in order to do that, we don't have to create a table from the backend, but we'll be creating its migration using terminal or command prompt in Windows, and we'll be running those migration later on. So let us open our terminal and go to the project folder. So cd slash applications slash amps slash www slash project. So this is my folder. In your case it could be D drive, E drive, or C drive, amps www slash project. So after we reach to our project, what we can do is we can just type in command php artisan make migration. So make colon migration is the command to make the migration or create the migration, and after we type make colon migration, we need to give a space and we need to name the migration. Let us suppose we are about to create the table called news. So what we'll be do is we can give any name as we want, but what I'm doing is to make it user friendly, we are just giving it name called create underscore news underscore table. Okay, so now if I hit enter, it is saying created migration 2018 4 24 001236 underscore created news table. Now if you see and go back to the migration folder, you will see a new migration generated here for us. And last time when we migrated our users and resets password table, you could see that we had two tables generated in our project folder, right? So where is it? Let's go database. This was our database, and here we had two table password resets and users, and these two, after migrating these two tables, its entry has already been saved to migrations. So if you go to migrations, it is saying that this migration and this migration has already been migrated, but we have not yet migrated our news migration. So in order to migrate it, what we need to do is php artisan migrate, right? But we will not be doing that right now. What we will be doing is, first of all, we need to create the schema for migration, news table. So right now our news table is blank. You see it has already created a class for us, our news migration. It has up function and down function, just like our users table had up functions and down functions. Now we need to create the fields for the news, and we'll be creating those fields from here. Two fields are already been created for us: increment and timestamp. Increment is a primary key which is automatically increased, and since it is integer, so id is our primary key, which is increased automatically. Similarly, we have a timestamp. So timestamp is for the field created at and updated at. So if you go back to project and see the users table, we have two fields at last, created at and updated at. So these two fields are generated by this function timestamp. Now in between we can write our own fields. So a news can have title. So what I will do is table arrow title, string. So string stands for varchar 255. So I will give the field name inside title, title. Similarly, it can have description, which is not a string, which is not a varchar, which is a text, long text. So I can say text and give the name description. Similarly, a news can have an author. So string of author. A news will have its date, author, description and title. So this is what and this is like the different fields that we created using our table. So we have a news table with ID, title, description and author along with its timestamps, and our table is ready to get migrated. So let's see. So this was how we created the migration, and we added the fields to the migration. Now all we need to do is migrate it. So php artisan migrate and enter will now migrate the news table to our database. Let's see. So migrating, create news table, migrated, create news table. This means our table has already been created in the database. Let's go to project. We have a table called news with the values that we assign: title, description, author, created ad, updated ad, and id, where id is the primary key and it is auto increment, title is varchar, description is text, author is varchar, and we have timestamps. So it was easy. Now you must be wondering, why do we need to create a migration instead of just creating the table from the phpMyAdmin? And the reason for this is because a project is not only dealt by a single programmer, okay, and it is usually done in group. And while working out for a project in a group, we generally build a migration so that we don't have to provide the detail of database and detail of table or export a database and send it to all the developers individually. Rather, we will be creating a migration and just pushing it through our Git or other version controlling tools like SVN. And once we have pushed our changes, all the developer can have a copy of those changes by just pulling from the Git or cloning the system into their system. So once they have received the migration, they can just run the command php artisan migrate, and all the tables will be there for them in their database. Similarly, even if we are creating the project individually or by our own, even in that case we might not be working in the same PC. Sometimes we might be in some different place where we are not with our development computer. Even in such case, if we are in a new computer, or let's say we work something from our home and we work something from our office, in that case, let us say we have two different computers, and we can start working in one computer and push those changes to our repository, and while working from our another computer, what we can do is we can just clone the system to our system using Git or other version controlling tool, and in such scenario we can just run php artisan migrate and entire database will be cloned to our system. So this is one of the use of creating migrations. Now let us see what are different other ways of creating the migrations. Okay, so once we have created a table, now we have a table in our database just like this. Now what we need to do is we also need to create the models for those tables, right? So currently if you see inside app, we only have users model but we also need a model for news, right? So in such case there are two ways. For example, where were we? Here. Okay, here. Now after creating the migration for news, we can run a similar command that says php artisan make. Instead of migration we can say modal, this way. So php artisan make modal, and we can give the name of the modal, which is news.php or just news. So php artisan make modal news and hit enter, and it will generate the modal for news table automatically. So modal created successfully, and you can see here you can see here the news modal has been created with some blank body, and all necessary classes has been used already. The namespaces has been provided already. The news class has been created. Now what we need to do is we need to write our own codes in order to make this model work. But by the way, this model is already working. We can now currently use this model in our controller, and we can perform all the actions already. But there are some other ways to make this creation of model and migration much more easy. So one of its ways I would like to show you. First of all, I like to remove this model, and also like to remove the migration. So where was our migration database? So news, just I would like to copy this so that I can reuse it. Copy, and I want to delete this migration. And what I'm deleting is I want to show you an alternate way of creating migrations and models at the same time. So go back to our project. I would like to remove all the migrations. I want to just start it from start. Okay. So first of all, let us create a migration. And in order to create the migration, all we need to do is we just need to run a command, php artisan make migration, right? But instead of using make migration, I'll use make modal. This time I'm doing just a reverse way. First of all, I'm creating the news modal, and I want to create a respective migration of this news model automatically. And in order to do that, I'll just write space minus minus migration. Okay, so this command here, this is a single command. We don't have migration, we don't have table yet, but I'm running a command that says php artisan make modal news. So this command is making a model called news along with its migration. So let's see, php artisan make modal news migration, and hit enter, and it says it has successfully created the model, and it has also created the migration of that model. So if you see now, we have news model and we have the migration for those news model already in our system. So see here, we have the migration created successfully and we have the model created successfully. So now we don't have to run two commands separately, one for migration and another for model. Rather, we can just use a single command and create the model and the migration at the same time. Now I have the structure for schema copied, so I'll just paste it. So this is our migration. So we have created the migration, we have created the model. Now all we need to do is just run php artisan migrate, and it will create the tables for us. Currently our database is empty, we just removed all of the tables. So let us just run php artisan migrate, and this will create all the tables that are there in the migrations for us. So you can see we have 3 migrations, and 3 of the migrations has been created. And if you just refresh this now, we have news, password resets, and users table created for us. So this is generally how we create the migration, basic migrations and its respective model. And we can learn more about model in future in coming classes, and you will also be dealing with these variables in future. I'll just explain about model future. Today we just covered how to create a simple migration using command line. It is just a single piece of code, and it will create the migration for us. Then another step is to add some fields to it. For increment id, for primary key auto increment id, we will just be using increments, and for any varchar we'll be using string, for any text we'll be using text, For timestamp, we'll be using timestamps. Now, in order to know what are more other functions that we can use for the fields, you can just go to the documentation of Laravel migration. Just search for laravel.com and go to documentation, and we can go to migration database and migrations. So you can see it is telling us how do we create the migrate PHP artisan, make migration, create users table. As there are some other ways in order to create the migration, which is here. We don't have to worry much about it. It is giving the structure of the migration table, which is here. And in order to run the migration, PHP artisan migrate, which we already covered. Similarly, there are some other stuffs like rolling back the migration. For example, we just migrated some tables, but let us suppose we made a mistake. I want to roll back the migration. In order to do that, what I can do is PHP artisan migrate and roll back. Okay, so I'm rolling back my migration. In order to roll back my migration, I just need to type in command PHP artisan migrate rollback. If I hit enter, it is saying rolling back, rolling back, rolling back. So now if I go to and check our database, all of our tables is gone and my migration is also blank, right? Because we don't have any entry. None of the tables are yet migrated because we have already rolled back. So after we roll back, now we can make the modifications of the rolled back tables, and we can run the migration again by typing in PHP artisan migrate. So rollback, we generally calls this function, and if there is no it is just PHP artisan migrate, it will run the up function. But if it's PHP artisan migrate with rollback, it will call the down function and drop all the tables. So this was rollback. So if we just try to see some more, you can just go through these documentation. And now what I want to show you is, so if you want, now here are the commands. For example, if you need big increments id, right, big integer, and we have character, we have date, we have date time, we have decimal, we have double for longer float, we have float for floating numbers, we have increments for auto incrementing numbers, we have integer for integer values, and we have like string for varchar, we have text for text, and time for time, and there's many other fields that we can many other commands that we can use in order to create our fields. Similarly, there in some cases we want to have like auto increment values, or we want to make some fields nullable. That is, if you want to, let us say, let me just roll back quickly, PHP artisan migrate rollback. Let us just roll back the table, but because what I wanted to do is I want to make my description or author nullable. It can be blank. So what I can do is I can just add a function called nullable over here this way. Now this author will be set to null by default. Now if I try to run the migration again, now you will see that my table news will have a field called author, which will be nullable. So author is null, yes, right? So this was no, this was no, this was no, but the author is yes because we set nullable to be true, right? So nullable, and there are other values. So if you want to set a specific collation for storing the Unicode values, you can just provide this collation over here. And there are other stuffs. In order to modify some values, you can just add new migrations. So these are something that you can go through. So that was it for today, and that was what I wanted to cover. I just wanted you to know the basic rules of creating the migrations and creating its specific model, running the migration, rolling back the migration. So after covering these few topics, we will be now ready to create our tables and start working in CRUD operations. So from tomorrow we'll be just covering some basic process of using blade template in the front end in the view files. How do we use the blade template, and then we can, after covering some basics of blade template, we can start working on crude operations of add, edit, delete using Laravel. So I hope you liked the video, and if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment on the video. And if you have any confusions regarding the video, you can mention it in the comment section, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new topic. Till then, have a nice time. Goodbye.